My name's Mitchell. Probably not the best name for a father of kids born out of wedlock. So it makes my boys both bastards and sons of Mitches. But for tonight, I'll be your Mianch. I'm an only child, so for the politically correct, I'm siblingly challenged. But don't feel bad for me because I don't have any brothers and sisters. So look at the bright side. I don't have any brothers and sisters. I grew up knowing I was the favorite. Also grew up very poor. I could only afford a single mom and a cheap stepdad who every time he opens his wallet, the queen faints because she thinks she's finally being rescued. My mom was even poorer. She grew up in an orphanage. She couldn't even afford parents. I know they say, if life serves you lemons, make lemonade. Well, in our house, it was a little bit different. It was sneak into McDonald's, steal those little vinegar packets, put that in water, and that'll sort of taste like lemonade. Needless to say, my lemonade stands never had any repeat business. My favorite toy growing up was the bathroom mirror. So I used to put it on my chest, look in the reflection, and pretend that I could walk on the ceiling. So I tiptoe around the chandelier. That's poor people talk for burnt out light. And then I jump over the door frames like I was Super Mario. And then I guess my mom at some point felt something's wrong, so she decided to go out and get me a real toy, a ceiling fan. But not just any ceiling fan. This was a 1550 RPM, 3-speed, fully reversible with a remote control. So when we fired that bad boy up, I started doing tricks, running on the fan, running on the fan, in between Z's, in between Z's. I ended up getting so good at it, I had to introduce a second mirror to increase the level of difficulty. Then it was double Dutch, strike a pose. It's very difficult to punish an only child, because what are you going to do? Put me in my room? Great, I get to hang out with my imaginary friend. And there's benefits that, sorry, okay, that's a little awkward, okay. This is my imaginary friend, Chewbacca. For the politically correct, he's epidermically challenged. He's an old hippie that loves smoking weed so much, he's got a bandolier of Zippos. Now, for some of you, that might not be realistic, because we all know no one likes joints with Zippos. But can you imagine how ridiculous Chewie would look with a bandolier of Bits? I love Chewie, not just because he's got my back, but like a good friend, he talks behind my back. Allow me to explain. This is in front of my face. This is behind my face. This is in front of my back. This is behind my back. So if you have any so-called friends talking behind your back, remember this. It takes a lot of courage to look someone in the eye when they're talking behind your back. Having an imaginary friend also has other benefits, like it adds credibility to your stories. I'm going to tell them that one. So one time, Chewie and I went to a tavern. You know those ones that smell of stale beer, BO, and puke? Is the air freshener they use to mask the real foul stench that's going on in the place? And apparently, if you serve cheap enough beer, you're able to turn off your sense of smell because the place was jam-packed. It was so busy, they sat me at a table with this old guy, and I could only assume the service wasn't that great because it looked like he ate his face. Well, it turns out he had an imaginary friend too. So I'm a gamer, so I buy him and his imaginary friend Bob a beer. I don't remember his name, he wasn't interesting enough. So this guy comes walking by, and he's about to sit in the empty chair, and I say, "Hey, watch out for Bob." And the old man looks at me and says, "Bob's in the bathroom." And he gives me this dirty look like he's some type of Yoda for the imaginary friend world. And I was like, Yoda would have said, "Bob in the bathroom he is." You're not that cool. So if you're that cool, why do you got an imaginary friend? It's a joke, Chewie. So we keep drinking, and this is the moment I've been waiting for. He finishes his beer, he reaches over, he grabs Bob's beer, and he takes a big sip. And I say, "Hey, I bought that beer for Bob." And he looks at me and he says, "I know. Bob doesn't want anything from you. He thinks you're an asshole. And to this day, I still have no idea what I did to Bob. Chewie has an idea, though. For the Wookiee impaired, I have no idea what that means. Thank you.
That was Mitch Timmons, everybody.
Yeah.
I might just be paranoid, but should I not be a little concerned that one of the last things he mentions before he gets off stage is Yoda? Yeah, I feel like all these guys are fucking with my height tonight. Folks, we're going to bring up our next act. This gentleman actually has a very successful podcast.